Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Cantina Hangouts, the Mandalorian recap review show over here at the Waffle Press Podcast. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. With me today is my co-host, Universa.
Good morning. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, good to see you too. Yeah, what a weird morning. You know what? We don't really do plugs at the top of the show usually, but I saw Beyond Skyline, the sequel to Beyond Skyline, Skyline 3. It kicks ass. If you're into Beyond Skyline, you'll enjoy this too. I just want to recommend everyone go out there, go check it out because it's a new monster movie that you can watch from the safety of your own home, and that's awesome. Unlike Monster Hunter, which is playing in theaters.
Right.
Just theaters in America.
It's playing at a few drive-ins, you know.
Yeah, but I looked up showings.
It's in
fucking genius.
Yeah, it's in the OC and it's in Pasadena.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I don't care. No, I don't care that much. I just want to see the cats fight people.
Right. Yeah. I was gonna say, just for the top of the episode, rest in peace, Jeremy Bullock, the original actor for Boba Fett.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Passed away.
That's too bad.
I was, I don't know. I mean, it's understandable, but I wish they could have had some sort of tribute to him.
I mean, it literally happened moment of,
right.
the day of release of the episode, basically.
Yeah,
that's understandable.
Right. Yeah, poor guy. But yeah, he had Parkinson's, so yeah.
Very sad.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. Thoughts to his family and loved ones. On today's show, of course, we're talking about the Mandalorian season 2 finale. It's coming off the end of we talked a little bit about it last week with our buddy Sean Fallon about the big Disney slate of Star Wars stuff and how there's some concerns going around, it might be a little too familiar, but as long as they keep expanding outwards and stop sticking to original trilogy timeline stuff, it could work. These shows could be well made, and I won't feel exhausted by them already.
Right.
I'm seeing very split opinions about this on Twitter. I know we don't spend too much time talking about this on the fan reaction to these things, because that's just not what. There's not really a lot you can get from that usually, but I think this episode's a very particular case of a reason why we have to do that, because I think something like this only exists because of fan reaction. But before we get into that, just overall thoughts, Gene. Did you like this episode?
Yeah, I mean, in a vacuum, in a bottle, I think I enjoyed this episode for the most part. Probably disagreed with it towards the end, but up into maybe the first, because it was 40 minutes, maybe the first 30 minutes were pretty good, having the dark troopers in there, it was really good in terms of storytelling. You see the dark troopers get out, you see the functions of the door, and the scene where he's fighting the dark trooper and the other ones are trying to break through, and he launches them in the space pod. Really good sequence. I was waiting for that dark trooper stuff, even though it kind of didn't really pay off in the long run. Yeah, we'll get into that later. But yeah, all the sequences like that, or seeing Boba Fett and meet Bo-Katan, that was a great moment. I don't know if you could call that fan service, but I wanted to see those two characters interact. And it's cool to see how combined and consolidated the Clone Wars era of Star Wars in terms of the 2008 show, and the old trilogy got in a scene together with Boba. So that was really neat. I thought that was some good writing right there, and their dichotomy and playing off of each other, how Boba kind of shit talks Bo-Katan, and Bo-Katan kind of shit talks him too. She's a little arrogant. I always like Bo-Katan, but seems like she's a little dismissive of other Mandalorians.
Yeah, I really liked that scene a lot too, and I guess that's the kind of quote unquote fan service that still serviced the story, because pretty much in every episode we've done this season for this show, us and the guests have like said the most interesting stuff in the Mandalorian show is like the actual like dealing with the identity of like what a Mandalorian even is, because it's not just like interesting because like it's fan debates. Like there's a mythology in the show that the characters are basically trying to parse out,
Right.
and it looks like next season that's what it's going to be kind of about. And so that scene where Boba Fett meets Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian, it's like 3 different perspectives on Mandalorian culture right there.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So that's interesting,
I wonder, did Boba never interacted with Bo-Katan in the Clone Wars? I can't remember, like any Mandalorian, right? Just really the clone troopers.
Just the clone troopers, and when he tried to kill Mace Windu.
Oh, that's right. And then other bounty hunters.
Yeah. Bo-Katan is like a straight up asshole to him. I kind of like that though.
Yeah, no, it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like your note about the Dark Trooper action. That's my favorite part of the episode. That was so much fun. Peyton Reed is a really good action director.
Yeah,
I think. Of course, this episode is called The Rescue, directed by Peyton Reed, and he is not the problem with this episode.
No, yeah,
absolutely not. he's very good at this. Don't know if I want to like with Rick Famuyiwa, Deborah Chow, and Bryce Dallas Howard. I'm like, give them a full feature. Like I think they got it. I don't know about Peyton Reed.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But he's good here.
Yeah, they he does a really good job. He's who would have thought the Bring It On director?
Me.
Yeah, okay. You had when you first saw Bring It On, you're like, oh, this is the guy.
Yeah, they give him Star Wars. No, I didn't think that, but he's a good director. I want him to get away from this stuff and be able to make his own movies again. Down with Love is a really underrated movie, and so yeah, everyone just watch Peyton Reed's other movies. They're all solid.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, even like I enjoy Bring It On. There you go.
Yeah, Bring It On's really good. It's a good sports movie.
But yeah, he did a good job with this episode, and just seeing all the interactions and everything. That was one of the better parts of this episode for sure. But yeah, and then just seeing it all like contemplate into one giant action sequence, which was the whole thing, and seeing how the Mandalorians fight and everything. Really interesting, I would say. And Kitty Sackhoff is, her Bo-Katan. Who would have thought? Just voicing one character would lead to this. So it's cool to see her have like more to do.
Yeah, I'm part of my concern, which is obvious. We're gonna get to it. Is that like looking back at the season now, I liked all these episodes, and I was like, no, it doesn't matter if they're gonna go to a spinoff, because like these characters, they're not gonna make all of them have spinoffs, which is ultimately what we're finding out is happening.
Right.
But like, I like that these stories were all contained in this one series. It made it feel so much bigger, and it like just totally got the vibe of Star Wars. And then you see them roll out all these different spin-offs on this platform, and it's like, oh, like it almost puts like a bad taste in my mouth afterwards. It doesn't make them lesser because they're just good on their own, in my opinion. But it does kind of like frustrate me, because it's like, well, what's this worth then?
Yeah, I think the thing with the spin-offs, again, I don't want to sound too cliche, like it's like Marvel or what have you, but it felt like a little sort of hollow. It felt not very subtle about what it was doing. It felt very like marketed and trying to think of the right word, where something's just in there to like spin things off, or that's like a trailer.
Well, it's like branding. It's branding.
Yeah, it's branding.
At a certain point, if you're trying to just market and brand, you're not going to be able to tell a story,
Right.
Like you can't survive like that.
And again, we don't like dislike like post-credit stings or setting things up for future adventures, but the obviousness of it felt a little like obnoxious. I think that's the issue, is the obviousness of it, and like the lack of like subtleness about it, I think completely,
we didn't get too much into it last week, because last week's episode, which I think it wipes the floor with this one,
right,
like by a lot, because that's when I was excited about this show still. But like, even when we're talking about like the stuff that is getting spun off, I'm not even like opposed to 1 or 2 of these like existing. It's just that it's all of these things existing.
It's very it's very overwhelming. I found.
It's very overwhelming, and it's all coming from like a general place of sameness. Like I started
Yeah.
watching the Mandalorian documentary for the first season,
Okay.
and it's like a good documentary. That
Right.
has like, oh, this prestige is presented with like this is the most important thing ever. But when the artists start talking, it's like really great to hear what they have to say about the process and stuff like that.
Right. Like someone like
And
Doug Chang or someone.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, or even like the
and
directors roundtable, like the way they're talking about like how, it really is just kind of like a scrappy production unit. It's an expensive television show, but it's also like we're kind of we have a game plan, but there's only so much you can bring to a game plan. Like there's only so much game plan you can bring to a set on the day of, right? Like anyone
right.
who's ever worked in a film set just knows that happens, right?
Yeah. Just.
And that there's like a beauty to that, and that's really exciting.
Mhm.
And then you hear all of this stuff, and it's just like, oh, I
Yeah.
want to hear. I need to hear more of this documentary stuff for season 2. I need
Mhm.
to hear Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni explain it with a straight face why they thought those last 10 minutes like were a good idea. I
Oh
need
yeah.
to know why no one shot that down, because those last 10 minutes, like I just felt like the look on my face of like enjoyment of the episode. The episode overall is solid. It's not great.
Mhm.
I'm not in love with it, but it's solid. But I
Right.
could just feel everything like a balloon deflating, like, oh no, when they were like, it's an
Yeah.
X-Wing, and I was like, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
They fucking wouldn't.
It's
And then
like
they did the
stumbling.
glove and the
Uh,
lightsaber, and I was like,
Just- okay, so I guess we're gonna go right into that scene.
I think we
Spoiler,
have to.
yeah, because it's like kind of the elephant in the room. It felt okay. So Luke Skywalker appears. There you go. Um, and yeah, it was kind of telegraphing what it was gonna do in terms of the last couple episodes, and even in this episode. But like, it reminded me of a fan film, and I don't mean that, I don't
Yes.
know, as like a put down or whatever, but like I'm not saying like, this scene was terrible because it looks like a fan film. There's some really well shot fan films for sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, really quick, just like the beauty of fan films,
Mhm.
whether or not we think they're good, it's like it's coming from a place of love. It's like
Yeah.
I love Star Wars so much, I want to play there with the tools that I have. That's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a Hollywood production, one of the biggest productions in the world, and it
Yeah.
looks so bad.
Yeah, it's just like it felt like the beats of like exactly what a fan film would have, and like it's just like uh like not showing the face of Luke, and having him being hooded and everything. It felt very like, yeah, it felt like a fan film, and it's like, am I watching the Star Wars production, or am I watching like a YouTube channel? Like there's like it entered this like uncanny valley of like, oh, this is kind of weird. And I think that's just my general thought. Like I didn't because you were texting after the episode, and you had some really strong reactions. I don't think I had like from Futurama. Do you remember I have no strong feelings one way or the other?
Yeah.
I just kind of felt like that. It was like, just like, this just feels really weird and like bizarre. Like I guess like in a vacuum, like maybe it would be cool in a video game, but it felt just weird, like just strange. I guess it's such a I can't like process it. Like, did that really happen? It's kind of
Yeah,
my
it
general reaction.
it totally just like it made me reject everything I was enjoying about the show.
Hmm.
Like it put up a wall, and I was like, oh, I'm on the outside of this now. Like
Yeah,
I'm looking for a way back in. And I don't mean this to sound like an overreaction, because I'm not
yeah.
like when I tweet
See,
things like prison,
right,
I don't actually mean I want to put someone
right,
in prison. I'm just being a facetious nerd.
right.
But it is a little upsetting.
Right. So if you're watching this on video, you can see Diego's drinking tea. He looks, yeah, he
Coffee,
doesn't.
but
Okay, whatever.
okay, yeah.
Like he looks pretty, pretty mellow. Like you're not having like, I'm gonna like burn paint John Favreau's house down. But yeah,
Yeah.
just kind of
No.
this is processing what you're feeling right now.
Yeah.
So
I'm not gonna tweet at him that he ruined Star Wars,
right,
because I'm an
right,
a well enough adjusted adult, I'll say.
exactly. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what to make of this. It's just odd. I guess, and even like stuff like Mark Hamill's voice, like your brain can't like process like this image of because obviously CGI, the face technology has improved a lot since Tron Legacy. Again,
which we just talked about.
Okay.
Very, very proud of that episode.
Yeah,
That
nice lead
lots
in
of
there.
merit in that one.
And the other thing too is that the like the voice of Mark, it felt like I'm trying to think of some other people that have voiced Luke in the last couple of years, but just something about it. Like, did they like digitally sound edit his voice to sound more younger? Did they put any filters? And like my brain couldn't accept like, oh, like it was probably Mark, but at the same time, I could never know if they changed anything. And just like it was like my brain just couldn't like process the information it was seeing. I'm like, you know.
Yeah, no, I think it. I mean, he gets credited, so it was him.
So
But
it was,
like
yeah.
the voice, it sounds like it's kind of like speaking like this, like
Yeah.
behind something else, and I don't understand.
Mm,
I'm glad it's not Sebastian Stan. If it was Sebastian Stan, I
right.
would have like jumped into traffic or something. But
Yeah, so
now
I
I'm just
guess
like,
let's
oh no.
we could talk about that because there was a lot of fan pensions, fan art, Reddit posts about Sebastian Stan, and I'm sure like probably someone at Disney had to see it and like either really seriously considered it, or Sebastian Stan just like laughed it off and like, no, I'm not doing this.
I
You know?
think next season, because the reaction to the CGI, like almost across the board, has been negative.
Yeah.
Even for the people that loved it. Like some fans are like, "This is Star Wars at its finest," and I'm just like,
Yeah,
"What the fuck are you talking about?"
right. I mean, again, like, because we're not like, we're not like telling you like, don't enjoy it, but like, we're not trying to nitpick or whatever. We're just talking about this and saying this is the greatest scene in the history of Star Wars. It's like it's a little bit reactionary, and like that's a little too soon to say. Like of all Star Wars, like is it better than Han and Leia saying goodbye in Empire Strikes Back? Is it better than Luke redeeming his father? Like you really can't say after an hour of processing what you just saw that's the greatest thing ever. Like I can't even say that about anything.
Yeah, and you know what? To kind of drive the point home even further, I think like the series fundamentally misuses Luke Skywalker. Like I am
Like this show.
honestly the show, yeah, The
Okay.
Mandalorian. I think this is far more a betrayal than anything in the sequel trilogy. Which,
Yeah.
even with my gripes in Rise of Skywalker, like
Yeah.
I'm just bummed Mark Hamill doesn't get to give a better performance really in that one.
Yeah.
But like here, it's like he gets to do his Rogue One thing, and I'm not going to say names because I don't know if the person wants to be mentioned. But a friend of mine mentioned that like if J.J. Abrams had done the Last Jedi, he would have given Luke Skywalker his badass moment where he's cutting down stormtroopers, and that we agreed that would have been the worst thing ever. So naturally, the Mandalorian gives him that moment against I mean, thankfully it's battle droids and not human beings this time because Luke is a pacifist, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's still weird because it presents it as like this almost like religious moment, like this great savior salvation coming for them. And Luke Skywalker is my favorite Star Wars character.
Yeah.
But I don't buy that that's him. Not just because of the face, but like the actions and the presentation, and even like the minimal dialogue that you get out of him. It's not like, it doesn't feel like him.
Yeah.
It feels like someone's dream of like a perfect version of Luke Skywalker.
Right. It feels very manufactured.
Mm-hmm. And it's like the charm of Luke Skywalker is his fallibility and like his heart. And this is a very cold, stoic version of that. Like the opening of Return of the Jedi, this is straight up like, remember how cool that was? And like I agree. It's a persona he's putting on for the gangsters. Right. His friends know it's still Luke Skywalker, a big old goof. Even though he knows his shit, he's a goofball. He's a little kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here it's like, no, but this is what he's really like. If he's so fucking cool. He's chopping up blaster droids, and you see when he cut that one in half, and it's right. And it's just, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess like it was good choreography. I don't know
what it reminded me of? It reminds me of that Vader versus Obi-Wan fan remake.
Oh yeah.
And then once that hit my brain, I was like, we lost Star Wars for a while. I think for
Yeah,
right now,
I
the
bet.
snake's gonna eat its own tail for a little bit.
Yeah, I bet Favreau for sure saw that, and he was like,
Yeah,
"Isn't this so cool?"
yeah, and like it's that works in like the sequel trilogy because it's like characters that are like inept and angry all the time, like purposefully. I think that's why those fights work in that series. Those fights wouldn't work in the same capacity if they were in the other 6 films.
Mhm.
But like, I think for like, I'm not even saying like Star Wars is dead or whatever. Like, I just
Yeah.
right now it's very clearly sticking to this one corner of the universe,
Mhm.
primarily at least, right? And so the snake's going to eat its own tail for a little bit, and
Right.
like it's not real, so I'm like I can live with it. I'm not declaring like the death of an institution or something like that. Just it's a bummer.
Yeah, just I was just talking to someone and they were saying that they should have used like a real actor. They should have used Sebastian Stan. I'm like, well, that really wouldn't work either because it's just like that takes you out of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
If it was like in an alternate universe where it's Sebastian Stan, that would kind of take you out of it too, as well. Like you would have to adjust to it. And like I don't know. I mean, for Ahsoka, it's a little bit different in terms of what have you. But I felt like if it was just Ahsoka that came back, that would have worked. You know?
It would have been better, I think, for this
Yeah.
story. And like,
Like she changed, I guess.
yeah,
Or,
and
yeah.
she was like, you know what, you're right. Like he needs to go with the Jedi for now, and so do I. And there you go.
Mhm.
Like, what does that mean? Does that mean they get killed by Kylo Ren? So I don't know. Like, whatever. It's there's more story to be told in the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's like the Mandalorian is now more than ever pulling from other aspects of the Star Wars universe to tell its own story.
Right.
I
And
feel like it's almost lost its own story.
yeah,
And
I think
before I
it.
criticize a little bit more, I do want to talk about that. But sorry, go ahead. I just cut you
Yeah,
off.
I think it's breaking its own rules and trying to create like a self-contained sort of tale, and it's really because I mean some of it worked. I mean, seeing Bo-Katan worked. Boba Fett, who I love, seen him talk and show like where he's been, and contrast that with uh, the Mandalorian. It worked. It worked, and yeah, it's kind of really not catering, but it's really like amping up this like nostalgia factor where it's like its greatest strength, but then it's also its greatest weakness.
Yeah. I like all the stuff with the actual like emotional and physical conflict of the characters that we've
Mm,
already known in the show.
yeah,
It's literally those last 10 minutes that are just like, wow, this nosedived so fast.
right.
And the moment when Grogu and the Mandalorian say goodbye to each other, right? And he takes off his mask. That's a beautiful moment. That's a really great moment.
Yeah,
That's like
that's
the moment
amazing.
of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. And then it's just surrounded by like this swirling fecal matter being thrown by incompetent monkeys, you know?
Ah, that's a little strong.
Maybe that's a little strong.
That's
Yeah,
a little
sorry,
strong to
sorry.
say, but like, yeah,
Sorry.
it's just that's a great moment. But I think it's just also like just all the Luke stuff is just not getting in the way, but it's a little distracting to, and it takes away from that moment. I felt it was just a bit distracting to have that uh, on your brain as like you're going through this emotional scene, which is in and of itself like a really touching scene. Like he, kind of gives up his creed in a way. He already did, I guess, in the last couple of episodes, and like he's, it's. I'm trying to think of a similar moment. Like I don't I, like why does my brain think of like Old Yeller or something? But like I'm trying to think. There was a fucking thing where someone gives up their like I don't know, like Sophie.
White Fang?
No, like Sophie's Choice or something. Like I don't know, like where it gives up a child because it's like I'm not Sophie's Choice, but like I don't
Yeah, it's a
know.
little different here.
Yeah. Oh, it's like Hey Arnold. Do you remember that one where his neighbor had to give up his daughter during the uh uh at the end of the Vietnam War,
Oh,
and
right. Yeah.
like
So
that where
she could be safe.
he'd be safe. It's like that. He's like ultimately he was this child's father.
Hmm.
I don't know, like Hey Arnold in Star Wars. I guess that works.
There you
But
go.
yeah, like he had to give up because it's like he couldn't really help the child's needs because it's obviously force sensitive. It's going through a lot, and then like I don't know if he could protect it any longer. He lives pretty dangerously, and like Moff Gideon and all the Imperials are going to be on his tail. Like, I mean, objectively, it'd be better with a Jedi.
Yeah,
You know, it's a very emotional
yeah,
growth for him.
yeah. You totally hit the nail on the head there. I mean, the season has like an arc for him, which is nice, and it's like a very touching one. Like at the beginning of the season, what's like the first thing we hear him say? He's like, "Wherever I go, he goes," and
Yeah.
now he has to let him. It's such a good moment, and I'm very upset about everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
There
No,
was an
no.
interview. There was an interview that I shared a clip from with you, uh, or someone who was interviewing Michael Arndt, who had written Toy Story 3 at the time and was writing the initial drafts of what would become The Force Awakens. And he was also part of leading up to Force Awakens. He ended up not writing all of it. It was Michael, no, who Lawrence Kasdan and J.J. Abrams ended up writing the script for The Force Awakens. But the big point of contention between all of them was that if Luke shows up in this movie when we're introducing new characters, he becomes the elephant in the room. He takes the audience's attention away from everything else because it's Luke fucking Skywalker. That's not something you can just kind of toss into a story and have it like flow naturally. That has to become the focal point.
Yeah,
so it's like weird that it happens at the end of season 2.
It's like the Poochie factor. Do you remember from that Simpsons episode Poochie, where they're like pitching Poochie, and it's like he's such a cool character. When he's not in the room, everyone's gonna be like, "Where's Poochie?"
But it's like that if it was real.
If it was real, yeah. Everyone, when Luke's not there, they're like, "Where's Luke? Is he gonna be in here?"
And there's I'll say very fair arguments that people are saying like, well, what did you expect to happen? Like this is it fits in with the timeline of the show was clearly like this is the most natural reaction to like a natural consequence to the show being set in this timeline. And you know what? Right. I completely concede, and I'll say that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
I think with all these spin-offs and everything like that, them being set in roughly the same time period puts like this creative roof over everything, where they can't really fulfill their full potential because you can't shift the central narrative of the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy. They now have to fit in like puzzle pieces, and that could be kind of fun, right? Like there's good prequels out there, but it's not something I'm interested in, and I think it's branding, not storytelling,
right?
Which is very disappointing.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, I agree with you there. I was gonna say for specifically for Luke, the other side of that coin is like how they used Boba, where it's like I was a big Boba Fett fan, unapologetically, and I, in a lot of things where Boba was used, I felt pretty content in how he was used. Like I wasn't thinking like, oh, is Boba Fett gonna come back, what have you? Where it's like in the missions, you get that he's like older, he's not as nimble as he used to be, and he's just going to hang back, and he's either going to be the driver of their heist or like the pilot, because he's just like, he's like, well, I'm good in a ship, and like I can't, I'm getting older, and like you felt pretty like content of like knowing Boba's being used, but like for all of these other missions, like it's not too there's not too much good you could do if you have Mando or someone on the ground. So, and like when they used them, it was like really appropriately, like the sonic boom in the Slave One, how he just helps them all out, and yeah, I felt very content with Boba, and he wasn't constantly on my mind.
So let me ask you before we get to the Twitter responses, because I think we got a nice little breadth of responses here. The Book of Boba is the last spinoff that they announced at the end of this as a post-credit scene. Right. How do you feel?
I don't know if that's like a spinoff or if it's just the next season.
That's also the question on everyone's mind.
That's I've read conflicting things that the storyline's gonna center on Boba, like it is called The Mandalorian. It's not called Jin. Like, Jin. Mm-hmm. It's not called that, so it could center on that. But again, is he a Mandalorian? I don't know, but I don't know. I don't really know if it's a spinoff. I can't really say for sure. I don't want to come off as like reactionary, but just okay. Let's rephrase it. Simply a question of storyline centered on Boba. I would be fairly excited for it, I guess. Yeah. fairly interested. Seeing Bib Fortuna, like fat and overweight, that was cool. And Jabba Salas, the Gamorrean guards. I guess he took over for Jabba, even though they destroyed the palace. Or no, they destroyed his.
They destroyed the barge.
The barge, yeah.
I thought about that too. I was like, wait, did they? No, they didn't.
Yeah,
so
they didn't.
Credit where it's due. They did their homework.
Yeah. So that was cool. I mean, it's an interesting thing to do with Boba because, like, we saw enough of Boba to get where he's coming from, but we don't really like see his his like moral or his ethics or like just what he thinks of the world, his worldview, what he wants. He's just kind of like indebted to the Mando, I guess, for his armor because he's more or less an honorable guy. I got that, but it seemed like he did change. So interested in seeing what he's planning. I mean, it seemed like he always had an ulterior motive or something.
Yeah. If it were a continued part of the Mandalorian series, then it was just like a subplot that was going on, right? I would be much more interested. I'll wait and see. I like Tamora Morrison a lot. I like the opportunity for Ming-Na Wen to be able to act more on screen because she's a badass. She has a season 1 character problem where it's just like, I don't know who that person is still. But hopefully they could do something with that. Yeah, because it's Ming-Na Wen. She's fucking awesome.
I will say I did like that scene as like a post-credit thing. I will say that because it kind of reminded me of like Unforgiven at the end, where just like Clint Eastwood goes in the bar, just fucking kills everyone.
I don't know. I heard the clown shoes come on with that one a little bit, but you know what? Yeah. Credit where it's due. That image of him and Ming-Na Wen sitting on the throne, it's a good image. And the Book of Boba, don't hate it.
Don't hate it.
The name, the title, I don't hate it, and I like the last image.
That's good enough for me.
Yeah, all my red flags that came up, they got blown away by the shitstorm, I guess we'll say. But some reactions here at Jacob Knight thought it felt very sugary, and while there's definitely a lot of emotional stuff there, some of the fights felt lacking, and the episode moved too quickly. And don't care too much about Boba though. Sorry.
Wow.
I like Boba Fett now.
Yeah, there you go. Converted another to the holy book of Boba.
At Rainwater, our buddy from the Tron Legacy episode, again, please check it out because that's also a movie with much better facial CG work.
Oh yeah.
Loved that. I thought the fake out was Ahsoka coming on board. Then I saw the glove. Also, the parallels to Rogue's one lightsabers scene was amazing. Interested to see if season 3 will be about Boba, not Mando. Same concern. You're dead fucking wrong about that scene being amazing, but that's okay. I still love you, and I'll see you guys next year when it's safe. But yeah, that I did not care for that. At Matt Bellismo just sent a GIF from Into the Spider-Verse when Peter Parker is laying back saying, "I am so tired." I respect that. Any last thoughts? I got 2 more to run through, but anything else we want to mention about this? Just
like as the series as a whole, or just the whole
the series as a whole, season finale. This is going to be the last one for a while.
Yeah, for a while. So. I think this was a pretty solid season. Didn't stick the landing. But I appreciate it for what it tried to do. What it was doing with a lot of legacy characters and Clone Wars characters. Seeing Bo-Katan in live action was great. I guess the way they use Ahsoka didn't hurt, and gave me back Boba Fett and made him an actual character, and made me not get shit from people for liking him in public discourse, because they'll say he's not a character, and now they're wrong. The joke's on them. But yeah, I think I just wish it just didn't, I don't know, like try to meet everyone's expectations. Like as a storyteller, sometimes you just can't, like you simply can't. And I felt it just went a little ways in the direction. Like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I guess that's my assessment. I'm not saying they made the worst choice possible or trying to critique or whatever, but I just felt like they catered a little too much to just pleasing everyone. And sometimes that happens, but hopefully maybe they learned some lessons from the season.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they learned from the first season for real fucking
Right.
sure. So
There you
I
go.
was wrong about the show before. I would love to be wrong again. I honest to
Yeah.
God would, because I really enjoyed watching the season. I enjoyed doing these recaps. And I enjoyed doing these hangouts. I really hope that they do get it together, because it's literally just like the last 10 minutes where I was like, it felt like it blew up in my face, or
Yeah,
someone threw a
it's
pie
like,
in my face.
yeah. It's like you got a flat tire on the freeway and you had to
Yeah,
crash
for
quickly.
real. I don't know, just I really wish they didn't announce all the spin-offs, then I could keep fighting some excitement.
Yeah.
It it does feel like I mean, the snake's eating its own tail, like I said, and I hope that people remember that this is just one thing in their life, in the world.
Mhm.
If anything, if you're unhappy about it, if anything, it should serve as a reminder that ultimately we are going to need new stories. It can't all just be Star Wars and stuff like that now.
Yeah.
Can't all just be spin-offs. If Star Wars ain't gonna tell new stories, it's up to you, the viewer, the other artists out there.
Of
So
course.
just something to
Yeah.
keep in mind as we head into the new year.
Yeah.
At Minodi said, plenty of questions to be asked. Kind of felt too abrupt and needed a bit more closing, but I thought it was pretty good. And at Ilya Glaskov had the good sense to binge watch the entire season before the finale, and boy, did it pay off. Once you see the story in full, it's actually a pretty clever coming of age story where every annoying side quest helps characters grow. That's what I'll say. All the side stuff I love. Everything
Yeah.
everyone was complaining about, I love this year.
Right. Yeah.
So,
There you
because
go.
I think they're right. Also, I'll make sure to highlight his reviews. They're in Russian, so you got to translate them.
Oh, okay.
But very, very excellent writer, very good Twitter personality, lovely, lovely fella.
Yeah.
But yeah, all this character side stuff, it's like my favorite stuff in the show. That's what I want more of, and hopefully they'll find a way to balance that next year with that and Giancarlo Esposito in chains, and also the conflict between the Darksaber now. And
Yeah, that's all interesting shit. I mean,
yeah,
that's
right?
way better than no nostalgia. So yeah, and I love the Darksaber. Darksaber's kind of like it's like the Infinity Cube or the Tesseract, whatever the fuck. Where it's like
kind of, yeah.
you have to do a little bit of math to figure out where it is in the timeline. But when you figure it out, you're like, oh, that makes sense, and like that's pretty neat, like the way they're using it. And it's a thing that travels through Clone Wars, Mandalorian, and wait, god damn it, Clone Wars, Rebels, and then Mandalorian. So you have to do that. And yeah, it's such a pivotal object, and it's so cool. It's like an expanded universe idea that was good, and now we have it like fully realized.
Yeah, and I hope the show continues to realize its true potential is in its own stories, not in the stories of others. For the
Yeah.
love of God, if they're just using this as a launch pad for other shows, even next year, I will probably stop doing these.
Yeah.
Or honestly, if it just continues to be as bad as the last 10 minutes, I don't know how much more we can do. But
yeah,
I hope that's not the case. So Gene, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Gene9892.
And you can follow me at the Diego Crespo on Twitter, and check out the Waffle Press on Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Patreon. We can get early access to other stuff, some extra Christmas goodies coming up. I'm whipping up some last minute stuff. Maybe some other neato stuff for Christmas. Who knows? And stay safe. Happy New Year. If this is the last thing you're going to watch from us for the rest of the year, we'll be back in January. We'll be planning out what's going on
for the new world.
Yeah, for the new world. They got a vaccine now. Let's hope they share it. All right, that was dark. But again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you didn't like this episode, like and subscribe anyways, because you might find something you do like. We have been professionally unprofessional.
Thank you. Bye-bye.